Thank you, and good morning, everyone. Oh my gosh, as I always say, and it's so true, we are truly blessed to have such musical inspiration and creativity. Kev and Lukman, thank you for the gift that you bring. And I love the song, The Face of God, because all we need to do today is just remember that. And so here we are on August 9th, and I'm speaking to you from the sanctuary of my home, which is a special place for me, just as our Oakland Center for Spiritual Living is a special place for all of us. But until we can meet there again, here we are today. So hello and good morning, everyone. Our theme for the month is inclusion and action. And I am so happy that the Centers for Spiritual Living is taking this theme so seriously. And so are all of us. As you can tell from the powerful Sunday talks that our ministers and practitioners have been delivering on Saturdays and Wednesdays, it's just the perfect opportunity for us to shift everything that's happening in this world. So I'm grateful to be with you today. And the theme for me today is, who are we? And so in my last talk, I touched a little bit about who do you think you are? And we talked about breaking old conditioning patterns and looking at our boundaries and surrounding ourselves with others and how they live and how we live in unity with one another. But today we are going to delve into, who are we? So I'd like to start off today with a poem. And this poem touched my heart this week when I was in a yoga class with Susan Urquhart Brown. And Susan read this beautiful poem, and as she was reading it, it resonated with me so deeply, mostly because of the talk today. So I'd like to invite everyone to settle in. This poem is from Hafiz. It's from the book, The Gift, and it is called, We Have Not Come to Take Prisoners. We have not come here to take prisoners, but to surrender ever more deeply to freedom and joy. We have not come into this exquisite world to hold ourselves hostage from love. Run, my dear, from anything that may not strengthen your precious budding wings. Run like hell, my dear, from anyone likely to put a sharp knife into the sacred, tender vision of your beautiful heart. We have a duty to befriend those aspects of obedience that stand outside of our house and shout to our reason, oh please, come out and play. For we have not come here to take prisoners or to confine our wondrous spirits, but to experience ever and ever more deeply our divine courage, freedom, and light. So who are we? With this first slide, please. Peter. Thank you. The only way out is in. And I read to you an affirmation I received this morning from a minister colleague. In order to hear the voice without volume, you must silence the mind and listen with your soul. The voice without volume reverberates through my soul, bringing harmony to every cell of my being. I need not say a word to bring harmony into being. I am harmony. Thank you, Peter. So our next slide, I'd like us to read this together. There is a value in getting clear about our identities, individual and collective, and what we are bringing to the table. Standing in our power and celebrating our identities of the identities of others is a gift. It also helps us to foster inclusion. Let's just be with that for a moment. It also helps us to foster inclusion. I'm grateful that we have had many opportunities, especially now, to stretch and grow and tackle what we call unconscious biases that exist in all of us. I'd like you, when you have time, to check the links I've provided, and let me say that there are actions we can take to minimize unconscious biases. I've put those links in the chat, and you're welcome to access them later if you'd like to know more. Unconscious biases is what this talk is primarily about. So how do we address unconscious biases? We have lots of ways, you know, through education and training programs. And there are so many options with CSL right now. There is an emphasis on this, and a particularly necessary emphasis on our unconscious biases. We all have them. And as you know, with Chantal and Doug and Reverend Francione and all of our Revs, Rev Sally, Rev Jeff, Rev Tony, we have been making available to everyone the opportunity to open up to the conversations regarding racisms of all kinds and isms of all kinds. So through education and training programs, through enhanced self-awareness, we recognize our biases and particularly the nature of them through enhanced self-awareness. So awareness is going to be another key word in this talk today. And as Howard Thurman said, get clear about our identities. Another way is by expanding our social network, especially those from socially dissimilar groups than ours. Simply having a conversation to connect and learn about others. Let me give you an example of this. Many years ago, let's say back in 2012, a practitioner colleague of mine suggested I join a book study. That group was formed by, guess who, Reverend Francione, and several of us Black, white, and Latinx folks joined together to learn more about one another. This was the start to a continued lifelong learning for me as I delved into white privilege and learned the true meaning of that term. I began to support workshops to help others learn more about the meaning that is so misunderstood. For me, this was the way to engage, become a real ally, and support what my heart was calling me to be. Because what I know is Black Lives Matter. And as we become willing to more deeply understand what that means, we become more compassionate, loving, kind, and supportive of human beings. I ask, isn't that what we're here to do, everyone? To be more compassionate and loving and kind human beings? The same person who instigated getting me into the study group said to me one day, I'm so tired of hearing the very same story over and over again. I couldn't understand why the very same person who enticed me into getting into such a group would adopt that attitude, especially because she had been in a biracial marriage and had a lovely biracial son. Was this white privilege sneaking in? I asked myself. It's sneaky, so becoming aware of it, we white folks can change it. What I know is this isn't an easy process for anyone, and it does take dedication and a hunger for making the world a much better place for all. We all have growing pains in one way or another, and I suspect she was going through some of that as well. However, I'm very grateful for the coercing that she did to getting me into a group that opened myself to a deeper understanding of what being a true ally means. There are so many strategies to consider, and I urge you to explore the websites listed in the chat to learn more. And our next slide is from our reading today. And I think it's important for us to read this again together. There is something in every one of you that waits and listens for the sound of the genuine in yourself. It is the only true guide you will ever have. And if you cannot hear it, you will all of your life spend your days on the ends of strings that somebody else pulls. I love this, particularly because during Reverend Francione's talk a few weeks ago, she shared about Howard Thurman, how he connected others and enlightened others to having a sympathetic understanding instead of a lack of understanding one another. We have the power to change the world by identifying these issues and working toward healing them. I believe that everything is happening in the world right now. It is happening to bring forth justice and equality for all. Everything, the protests, the unnecessary killings, there is an opening of awareness that's taking place, that must take place. And even our beloved Congressman Lewis's passing was so timely in an era where we need to know what others have faced in their life's journey that made them stronger than we can humanly imagine. His life was a life well lived for liberty and justice for all. What an example for us. He was a true hero and received the most beautiful congressional send-off. No one deserved this honoring more than Congressman Lewis. And in our next slide, Kat Colila Graham. Creating a culture of inclusion starts with creating a culture of awareness. I liken a self-awareness strategy to having a full-length mirror. Keep checking yourself in the mirror, because the success of inclusion depends on the authenticity of your leadership. Take that one in. In our Science of Mind teachings, we recognize we are emanations of the divine, don't we? We are one with our source, spirit. We are unique and we are individualized, yet one. So when we look into the mirror, let us see our unique individualization and at the same time know that we are unified through various experiences, identities, and the mere fact that we are all alive right here and right now. So when we are clear about who we are in our various giftings, experiences, and identities, we can move more fully and show up and allow others to more fully show up as the emanations of God that they are. We can know God more deeply and reveal an experience of inclusion in our lives and communities when we have good self-awareness and awareness of others. Think about it. If we were all alike, how boring would that be? It's our uniqueness that makes us so much more interesting. Individually, we must awaken and become aware of our differences. The key words here are awaken and aware. And because we are a multitude, a macro, every person contains a myriad of identities. We all contain a myriad of identities. I liken it to kaleidoscope. We're all so different and we're all so intertwined. We are hard to pin down or capture by any one identifier. We transform and have millions of experiences over the course of our lifespan. This makes me think of the term Ernest Holmes uses as race consciousness. He says, we are all immersed in and experiencing the race consciousness, and it is operating through each of us to a greater or lesser degree. Any negativity of thought we are aware of arising from such sources may be changed consciously by consciously identifying ourselves with and maintaining only good, positive ideas. Again, become awake and aware. Sometimes we are conditioned to acknowledge pieces of our identity more prominently than other aspects of ourselves, either because the context in which we've been raised or the context we're presently living favors certain identifiers. Sometimes it's because we're faced a serious threat due to others' biases in relationship to parts of who we are. We can sometimes and do repress parts of who we are, our relationships with emotions, our history, our cultural identity, our gender identity, our journey with mental health issues and depression. It's really very valuable to look at these things and begin to integrate and celebrate all that we are. We can be gentle, and I say be gentle with ourselves when discovering what parts of ourselves we may have been repressing along the way, and also begin claiming and healing our unique journeys and identities. It's powerful. It's so powerful to claim our identities and gifts. We are beloved and a blessing to the world. There is absolutely no question about that. When we see ourselves more clearly and can celebrate who we are, it often becomes easier with the help of trusted friends and colleagues, family members, our spiritual community, therapists, and so forth, however we reach out, to begin to see where we might have picked up on some subconscious or unconscious biases along the way. We as humans, because of how our brains work, tend towards categorizing people and experiences. And when we pair that with systems around us that promote and have historically promoted inequity and cultures of supremacy, we adopt some biases that do not serve us well in loving ourselves and others in a more fully realized way. Excuse me. Our biases are sometimes apparent to us, yes, but they are often hidden from us. We call them subconscious biases. When we begin to ask ourselves good questions about what we believe and assume about others and where those beliefs might have come from, we are taking a very important step towards healing our subconscious biases. Again, our work is to become more awake and aware of how we are thinking and how we can change our experience by getting clearer about our biases and shifting them to more love and compassion. It is necessary that we become culturally competent. So take a moment now with me and close your eyes and see if you can recognize an unconscious bias. So remember what it is and go to work on it. Heal it. If you need help, you can always reach out to a practitioner or someone you trust to help you through the process. Peter, on the next slide. On the slide, Thomas Merton goes on to say, the beginning of love is the will to let those we love be perfectly themselves. The resolution not to twist them to fit our own image. If in loving them, we do not love what they are, but only their potential likeness to ourselves, then we do not love them. We only love the reflection of ourselves we find in them. Self-awareness, it's an extraordinary tool. It's an extraordinary tool in putting inclusion into action, because when we become more self-aware, there is a much greater opportunity for healing, hearing our genuine truth, claiming our beauty and power, and becoming aware of our subconscious biases, so we might understand how they play into our beliefs and our behaviors. Healing cannot happen without honest inquiry. Again, I say honest inquiry into the self. When we are willing to do this, it is an important step in building a practice of being aware of others and ultimately loving people well for exactly who they are. So there's a short video that wows me, and I wanted to share it with you. I'm not sure it made it to Peter. So Peter, could you let me know if you have the video link? If so.
I didn't get it.
Okay, so there's a video link that is the very first link in the chat, which I encourage you to look at. It's a beautiful history. I don't know, let's see if I can,
Today we hear the...
Let me see how I can share it with you. Give me 1 second here. It's very brief, but it's really important to, well, I'm gonna let you.
Geri, do you want me to do it? It's
Could
Constance.
you do it, please, Constance? That would be lovely, because then I won't get things.
Give me a second.
Are you sharing mine, or you're sharing the link?
I'm copying the link and putting it in YouTube, and then I'm going to share my screen.
Thank you so much.
Today we hear the call for full equality for women.
Related, and as soon as it ends and you see the writing, Constance, you can turn it off, because it'll go into another quick video.
And distinctly for women of color from a multiplicity of perspectives. Intersectionality is a term we often hear, but what does it mean? Kimberly Crenshaw, who coined the term in 1989, explains it with a metaphor.
Consider an intersection made up of many roads. The roads are the structures of race, gender identity, class, sexuality, disability, and the traffic running through those roads are the practices and policies that discriminate against people. Now, if an accident happens, it can be caused by cars traveling from any number of directions, and sometimes from all of them. So if a Black woman is harmed because she is in an intersection, her injury could result from discrimination from any or all directions.
Intersectionality in all discussions of the rights of African American women today is built on the work of previous generations who have always been a part of the fight for full equality. Sojourner Truth escaped slavery in 1827 and became one of the most powerful women's rights activists of her time. She emphasized her identity as both African American and woman in her famous Ain't I a Woman speech at the Women's Convention in 1851. In 1893, Anna Julia Cooper addressed the World Congress of Representative Women, saying, "The white woman could at least plead for her own emancipation. The Black woman, doubly enslaved, could but suffer and struggle and be silent." They demanded recognition of both the femaleness and Blackness of African American women in the struggle for political and social advancement. In 1951, the Sojourners for Truth put a call out to Negro women to convene in Washington, D.C. for a Sojourn for Truth and Justice. 132 women from 14 states responded. During the Sojourners' last Eastern Seaboard Conference, they discussed the organizational tenets of fighting against triple oppression facing working-class Black women of racism, sexism, and classism. Their efforts were a precursor to the Black freedom activism of the Black Power era and the Black feminist movement. Named for a raid led by Harriet Tubman, which freed more than 750 slaves, the Combahee River Collective was founded in 1974 by a group of self-identified queer Black feminists. Their Combahee River Collective statement was one of the earliest explorations of the intersection of multiple oppressions to include sexuality. They stated, "Our politics initially sprang from the shared belief that Black women are inherently valuable." The words and actions of these leaders continue to contribute to today's discussion around intersectionality, feminism, and civil rights that demand equality and inclusion for all. Hey guys, it's Josie. If you
Thank you so much, Constance, for pulling that together. This video wows me because the fight has been going on for so long. And it's time to bring the fighting to an end and let equality reign. So I ask you, how difficult is it for us to dismantle symbols of hate and replace them with symbols of love, peace, and justice? I truly hope that you will follow me in bravely exploring our identities in all their complexity and all their splendor. Let's look at what is asking to be healed in our lives. Let us kindly and boldly explore our subconscious or unconscious biases. The work of coming to know and love thyself, and the work of coming to be able to actually see other people and love them for who they are, is divine work. It is the work of seeing, knowing, and loving God more deeply. It is the act of being awake to the truth that the soul of the universe is our soul too. Thank you. Bless you. And let us pray. Just taking a deep breath, breathing in that breath of the divine, breathing in that breath of the universe, breathing in life itself. And as we continue to breathe, let us recognize the one divine power and presence that is everywhere, giving of itself. It is all knowing, it is all wise. How good it is to know that it is boundless, that it is infinite and everywhere surrounding us. This presence is so powerful. It's so almighty. It is absolute. And what I know about this power and presence is that there is no separation, that we too are one with all of this awakening and awareness of the one divine power and presence that is filled with truth and love and wholeness and goodness, of joy and abundance, of beauty every way. And we know it by so many different names. Today I call it God. Whatever name we choose, we know that there is only one power and presence in our lives, and we are absolutely divinely guided by it and one with it. So in this knowing, I bring forth this month's nonprofit partner, Community Education Partnerships. Their mission is to increase learning opportunities and enhance academics for homeless and highly global Bay Area youth. Our beloved Mother Earth, giving gratitude for the beauty and resilience and our increasingly mindful stewardship of her. And we're blessing those in service, creating a world that works for everyone. And blessing our youth and the youth of the world, knowing they are guided by the loving mind and heart of Spirit. And I'm speaking my word this day for love and comfort and healing for all those impacted by challenges in whatever form in their lives. I speak the names Brenda, Brooke, Kenneth, Evan, John Lewis, Andre Alvarez, Lelar W., Michael Higgins, Mike and Mary, Leonardo Atterbury, Louis Thompson, Ethan, Emmett, Laney, Ellie, Ellie's mom, Lisa, and Sally, and all those in our experience right here and right now that are impacted by COVID. And for transition, for peace of mind and health for anyone who has made their transition. And today I bring forth Kev Choice's beloved aunt, Anya Victoria Valencia, as she makes her way to her greatest yet to be in the loving arms of the Spirit. I bless Kevin and his family, knowing peace of mind and comfort for them, knowing that she is safe and she is loved. God knows only good. And I invite everyone now to speak the name or names of anyone on your heart in need of a prayer. Those names continue to be brought to heart and spoken. I just know that all is in divine order for each and every one. I bless each and every person on this life journey. I know that we all reach the port safely, that there's a healing taking place. There is something necessary happening right here and right now for our highest and our best. So I embrace that. I give great thanks to all the beauty of this music, for the opportunity to be of service and to join together this morning. I bless everyone, and I am so very grateful to know that these words that are related to the universal love mind are words that are heard, are words that the law suggests to, and that all of it is made manifest here. I am so very grateful for this in the Lord as I let it be. And as we let it be together, please join me in saying, and so it is.